as well. So this is on developer's perspective. Let me briefly introduce the panelists and then invite them to the dais. This is in alphabetic order. So Mr. Naveen Khandelwal is CEO of Bright Night Power Group, has got about 20 years of experience and has played a key role in developing portfolios over 7 gigawatt, also orchestrated capital fundraising of more than $3 billion. Engineer from Malvin National Institute of Technology, Jaipur, also an MBA from XLRI, Jamshedpur. Please welcome Mr. Khandelwal, please. Please come to the rise. Yes, yes, you do. Mr. Dhananjay Kumar is Director of Corporate and Regulatory Affairs at NG India, has got about 3.5 decades of experience in the energy sector, has earlier worked with SR and Lanco and AES as well, which have been a long, long time ago, I'm assuming. One of the things he's currently working on is, or has worked on, was the pre-development work of offshore wind projects in India for Ocean Winds, which is joint venture between NG and EDF, EDP Renewables. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Kumar. Also with us is, and he's not a developer, but we wanted one technology provider in this session, is Mr. Manish Narula, who's Executive Vice President, South Asia for Jinko Solar, has got about over 20 years of experience in the energy sector, has worked with companies like GE, Moser Bayer, and Sempcor. He's a chartered engineer by training, also has an MBA as well. Please welcome Mr. Narula, please. We have with us Mr. Gautam Samanta, who I'm seeing after a long time, who's head of PV technology at Juniper Green Energy, has got almost 4 decades of experience, 30 years in international PV industry, played a major role in installing PV power plant modules of over 1.5 gigawatt at ACME, Orange Renewable Power, Greenco, and Juniper Green Energy. He has a master's degree in solid state physics, also has an MTech from IIT Kharagpur. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Samanta, please. We have with us Dr. Arul Shanmuga Sundram, who is Executive Director Operations at Ayana Power, has got about 25 years experience in technology, EPC, BD, and manufacturing sectors. Earlier has worked with Tata Power Solar Systems, Tata International, and Applied Materials. He is an engineer from IIT, and the doctor in the names comes from having a PhD from Cornell University. Dr. Shanmuga Sundram, please. And finally, we have with us Mr. Deepak Singh C. Thakur, Managing Director and CEO of Mahindra Sustain. And Mr. Thakur has, before he took over this position, he was lead for Reliance, lead for renewables and energy storage at Reliance Group. He's also been CEO for hybrid and energy storage business at Sterling and Wilson, also worked with L&T, Honeywell, and Thermex, and over the years has handled various responsibilities, including sales, marketing, corporate strategy, business planning, strategic alliances, P&L, etc. He's an engineer from University of Pune and also has an MBA as well. Mr. Thakur, please. See here, wonderful. Okay, so with your permission, I'll come over there and we'll start off. So we're going to keep it a relatively freewheeling sort of discussion. And I'll need your cooperation making sure the answers are short and crisp, and that way we can handle many, many more questions. Some of the questions I think were sort of related to you in terms of what we want to sort of deal with over the course of the hour and a half, not hour and 20 minutes. And that's, you know, what have been, what's been experienced, what are the plans, what are you looking to do, what are the concerns, and what are the expectations. I'll try to make sure that everyone has a first shot at a question, let's see what we can do in the next 75 minutes. Okay, so my first question is going to be very briefly. You can simply tell us what your level of involvement is, what the magnitude of your involvement is in solar. That means portfolio size, projects under development, operational projects, etc., etc. And we'll begin this way. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Rara. Thanks for providing the platform. And hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So I'll start with maybe 90 seconds introduction about the Bright Night first, and then the India plans. So Bright Night is a US headquartered global platform. We operate across 7 to 8 markets across the globe. And US, of course, is the headquarters, but we have a meaningful and sizable presence in other markets like, a lot of APAC markets, starting with India, Australia, Philippines, and couple of other markets. And then we are starting now, about to start in Europe. So this is truly a global platform. A couple of things where BrightNight differentiates is we use solar as a technology, but we are not just a solar player, right? The mandate of the platform is to focus on dispatchability, which requires multiple technologies to come together to enable us or the projects to deliver higher PLFs, firmness, dispatchability, where we can actually try to achieve coal displacement or coal replacement faster and take the grid to the more greener quotient as soon as possible. So real decarbonization by utilizing or by deploying all the technologies, not just solar. So that's about BrightNight. Now, in India, it's a bit young company. We are close to 2.5 years old, and our plans are, of course, multiple gigawatts in next few years. But as I mentioned, most of the projects are going to have all the technologies coming into play together. So we have not done, and we don't intend to do plain solar projects, right? Solar is important, solar is necessary, but we need to add a lot of things to solar to make it much more utilizable or useful for the grid.
Okay.
I'll take a pause
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Kumar, same question for you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So just a quick intro of NG. As you know, NG is one of the largest IPP globally. We have over 100 gigawatts of portfolio globally, out of which little more than 40 gigawatt of renewables. By 2030, we have set up a target of 80 gigawatts renewables. Various business streams, but since this discussion is more about renewables, so I'll keep it limited to renewable. In India, we are over a decade old. Probably we didn't grow to the extent we should have, but now there is a lot of focus on the country. We have about over a gigawatt of operational projects in our portfolio, about 1.2 gigawatts in construction, which we are going to commission by 2026. Starting, some has been already done this year. In future targets, India is one of our key markets of NG globally, and out of our annual target of 6 to 8 gigawatts globally, India is going to play a significant role into that. As a ballpark number, we will look anywhere between 600 megawatts to 1,000 megawatts annually in renewable projects in India. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Thakur.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for giving us an opportunity to present.
We were happy to have you here.
Thank you.
After several tries.
So I think we in India would be the entity which has perhaps operating in the renewable space for the longest 1.5 decades now.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first entity to actually set the ball rolling in 2010 after the National Solar Mission was launched. Mahindra Sustain was primarily, in the initial days, a third-party EPC player. We have done about 4,500 megawatts of build for third-party as well as for ourselves. We also started from 2016, we started building our own assets, and we actually built about 1,600 megawatts of solar assets. And we actually flipped them. So I think what Sustain has done is perhaps unique in the industry, where Jan 15th of 2024, we listed one of India's largest renewable energy InvITs. And as a DevCo, Sustain actually flipped 1.54 gigawatts of assets to the InvIT, making it the largest in India. And this is the model that we actually have created, which is where Sustain now focuses on being a DevCo, which means that we will build projects, operate them for a year, and then those assets will get flipped to the InvIT. So it's a kind of a cash cycle which actually has got created between Mahindra and Ontario Teachers, which has about a 39.99% stake in Sustain. So that's a very unique model which has got created. Using this engine, Sustain 2.0 has already acquired almost about 2,000 megawatts of projects in the last fiscal, and we are actually in the process of building out these projects. And we have a plan to build about 5,500 megawatt project as per the approval we have from our board and from our shareholders in the next 5 years. As you see, almost 40% of that is already achieved in year one. So we are now actually fast tracking to see how we can enhance this number even further. In fact, that's what I think is happening. So clearly there's a roadmap. Now this portfolio that we are building is not primarily solar. We are now saying obviously hybrids, round the clock power, energy storage, around FDRE. We are looking at the entire canvas. And while we were focused on utility scale projects, we are now started to look at hybrids. In fact, we have just started building out our first 170 megawatt solar wind hybrid project as a group captive project for the group. And they will use Sugoshe's modules from First Solar. And this is also our entry into open access. So while we are focused on utility, we are also going to go look at open access. So clearly, I think we are now stopped doing third-party EPC. So yes, the market lost a credible third-party EPC player. We are now using our complete EPC strength to kind of, as a competitive advantage for how we build, conceive, and operate projects. So thanks, that's Sustain for you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Shanmuga Sundaram.
Yeah, hi. So I'm from Ayana Renewable. Ayana is funded by two sovereign wealth funds, the National India Infrastructure Fund and British International Investment, which used to be called CDC. We have about, I think, as of being maybe 1.8, 1.9 gigawatt of operating assets, and we should be crossing 2 gigawatt in the next 15 days. So we have 2 gigawatt of operating assets and about another 2.5 to 3, close to 3 gigawatt of projects under various stages of execution with the PPA. So we expect to complete them by 2025, as and when the connectivities become available. So in terms of our portfolio, of course, we have solar as well as wind in our operating assets. And in the future pipeline, we have almost 400 megawatt of RTC projects. I think a 300 megawatt for Indian Railways and 100 megawatt for our Hindalco, both of which should get operational in the next 6 to 9 months. And this is equivalent to almost 1.4 gigawatt of renewables, roughly 700 and 750 megawatt of wind and 650 megawatt of solar. So this is something we should be bringing online our first RTC into the market with storage. It's not excess power-based RTC, but it's a RTC with the storage, with the 50% commitment in every time block for renewables and a greater than 85% PLF. I think that's been a focus of Ayana, and we obviously started with our Hindalco was our first CNI customer, and we are looking at other CNI customers as well beyond the traditional focus on utility scale markets.
Okay. Mr. Samantha, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm working in the Juniper Green Energy. Earlier, it was the name of Orange Renewables. It's a part of the AT Capital Singapore, right? And with the Juniper, today we have installed almost 900 megawatt in solar. And we have a pipeline, in the construction stage, 1.2 gigawatt of solar wind. This is a hybrid. And then another pipeline is 3.2 gigawatt in FDRE, yeah, right? Okay. So we have a vanilla of your solar wind hybrid as well as, the RTC, which is called the FDRE, power project in hand. So that is the portfolio.
Thank you.
What we have.
Mr. Nirola, obviously, if you can tell us about your global overall sale in terms of megawatt, gigawatt, and in India, if you can give us that idea as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. So Jinko Solar is one of the largest manufacturers of solar modules globally, and we have also entered into ESS space very recently. In terms of the numbers and our plans, globally we have now done cumulatively more than 200 gigawatts of shipment of solar modules of various efficiencies and various capacities. In India also we have done more than 14 gigawatts now. In terms of ESS, we have also done a few contracts. We'll start delivering those contracts within this year. In terms of future plans, I think we are looking towards building up one of the largest single location factory in Shaanxi province, which is 56 gigawatt in single location, which will have end-to-end production starting from polycrystalline material up to the solar module under one roof to avoid the logistic cost and other hassles and save times in terms of production. we are quite bullish about our projection, and we are looking forward to serve more clients and projects within India. Thankfully, that almost all the people sitting on this dais are our clients, and several of you in the audience. So we are happy to be here and continue to serve you in future. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is going to be, have things gone better or worse than you expected in the last 12 months? And one single reason that you think that's why it happened. I'm saying one because that'll give everybody a chance to be able to say what they want. We're going to begin with you, Mr. Kumar, this time. Mr. Kumar? Yeah, we're beginning with you. So in your view, just repeat, have things gone better or worse than expected in the last 12 months? And one single reason why better or worse, whatever.
Very difficult question.
You
I would say
can
that-
pass and we can go to the next one.
I would say that definitely it is positive. Things have definitely gone better.
Okay, better. And the reason?
Reason
One
is,
reason.
Yeah, reason is that you see the scale here and you have got the right to choose. That's the best thing about India. So there are 2 to 3 gigawatts of projects happening every month, and you can choose.
Okay, so a lot big pipeline and choice of projects, right?
Yeah, not pipeline, not just pipeline, even to execution. You can choose which state, which project, which
Okay.
type of project, which technology.
Okay.
You don't feel that, that FOMO that, oh, I lost out, so
Okay.
I have to rush.
Okay, so lots of
anywhere.
choice.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
we'll go.
lot
Mr.
of
Thakur,
choice.
better or worse, and the single reason why?
I'll just take a minute, if you just pardon me.
Okay.
VUCA. We developers live in a world where VUCA is actually experienced by us every day.
Mhm.
The volatility, the uncertainty, the complexity, and the
Right.
ambiguity.
Right.
A lot of good things have happened.
Mhm.
It's difficult to give a binary answer.
Mhm.
But clearly, I think for us, VUCA has increased.
Okay.
VUCA has increased on number of fronts.
Right.
Evacuation infrastructure. There's a huge challenge
Right.
in today. The regulatory ecosystem.
Mhm.
Clarity on ALMM was a question mark. It just got cleared. So
Mhm.
we were living in a world where we did not know which way to go. There was and is an issue, GNA, regulations.
Mhm.
We have a draft 1 which got notified. We have a draft 2 which is on the table. And we believe there's a draft 3 coming our way.
Mhm.
DSM norms are getting tighter and tighter.
Mhm.
We had one tranche which came in October. We have another one on the table right now, which actually increases the DSM cost for solar by as much as 6x. I would say this creates challenges.
Right. Right.
And as a developer community, we need to, I think, ourselves align to make sure that how we manage it. And last but not the least is there's a huge pipeline, but I think somewhere there is a bloodbath which is happening.
Okay.
Because the tariffs which are being discovered today don't seem to signify how we are ensuring returns
Right.
for our
Okay.
shareholders and investors. And last but not the least, as an Indian citizen, I personally support Make in India. But currently the focus on Make of India is somehow jeopardizing the long-term interests of the country. I'll give you 2 reasons for that. One, are the projects that each one of us are building, which are projects which have a 25-year life. Projects which are supposed to give the best tariffs and are supposed to be able to sustainably make sure that the banks don't have NPAs because these are long-term debts. And the one factor which is very critical for that is the technology which we are putting into these projects. Are they best in class? Are they the most reliable? Are they the most robust? And are they the best in class? So are we today actually getting in technology which is ahead of the curve in terms of efficiency, reliability, robustness? Make in India is important, but is that really happening on the ground is a question that we need to ask ourselves while we look at short and medium term. from a long-term perspective. Sorry,
Thank you.
I took some time, but I thought it's
okay.
important to give a
That's fine.
perspective.
I think that's fair. Let me, in order to be fair, because
Yeah, I think maybe
yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
sort of disagree
I'll come
with
back to you as
Deepak
well,
on a
Mr. Kumar.
couple of
Don't worry.
things.
I'll give you more time, Mr. Kumar, for this question. Yes, yeah,
Maybe
yes.
I'll disagree with Deepak
Yeah.
on a couple of
Dr.
things.
Shanmugha
But,
Sundar. Yeah.
see, if you look at the project development and the capacity addition, right, the
Mhm.
last 12 months have been very, very good.
Mhm.
And the primary reason is the module price drop. I think, let's be honest, right? The module price drop is the primary reason. And the second thing which I see from a project development and capacity buildup is at least I've not followed, but the recently discovered tariffs are much higher. That the bloodbath of competition honestly is not there today to my thing compared to the tariffs we had a year ago, right? From both these perspectives, I think from a capacity addition standpoint, the last 12 months have been good, right?
Mhm.
But couple of points that Deepak raised as an asset owner who's already owning an asset, have the last 12 months been good? I would say, I think this DSM regulations,
Mhm.
some of these other capacity limitations, reactive power, all these things, right? They are adding additional costs. As an asset owner, I would say some of these regulations are not being helpful from a person who's already owning the asset, right?
Right.
But from a capacity addition standpoint, yes, it has been good, primarily driven by module, and overall competition is much lesser now in the bidding.
Okay. Mr. Samantha.
Yes, I believe we are very comfortable in terms of the tariff for last 12 months, you know. As far as solar is concerned, the module price is one of the lowest price, you know. But the concern area is the wind, right? Wind capex is the concern area, and also the generations, right? Okay. Now, as far as the supply is concerned, you know, right, we have placed an order with the Indian manufacturer, with Atmanirbhar Bharat, but we could see that there is a constraint in supply, you know, I mean, within the time limit. So we are going for a foreign manufacturer as well, you know. But capex is one of the area in wind, yeah? That is the thing that we have to mention. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Nehru, you have a different perspective, but from your perspective, how's the Indian market been, and what was good about it?
Yeah, so Indian market has always been challenging and exciting for us, and it is always keeping us thinking, you know, ahead of the curve, and we have been doing so far. Last year has been great, exceptionally well for us in terms of that we secured #1 position in the market in terms of module supplies against all odds. This year, I think we are hoping that things will take shape differently, but yes, subject to certain, you know, issues beyond our control. We still hope that a certain backlog of projects will still come our way, and we are happy to serve the market in whichever possible ways for modules or even cell supplies or even wafer supplies. Whatever we have on our side, we can, you know, support this market, because as Mr. Thakur said, you know, we have to look at, you know, the holistic picture of the country, you know. So the demand supply gaps, we have to make sure that we have the right means to fulfill. So in whichever way is possible for us to fulfill that demand supply gap by way of modules or cells or wafer, we are still there. And also we have launched ESS, which is the, you know, a landmark, you know, launch for us. So exciting times ahead, I would say.
Okay. Mr. Khandelwal.
Yeah, Mr. Brara, so I'll answer your question in two parts. One brief, one-liner, which is what you wanted, and then details. So overall, positive. And the right indicator for that is capital flowing in or flowing out, right? Are more investors willing to put capital in or out? And answer is a big positive. We have seen, we were already X number of companies, and you saw launch of many more platforms, and it's still happening, right? So overall, more capital flow. But taking Deepak's point, yes, life has become much more challenging. That's how industries evolve. So short term, good. Let's see what happens in medium to long term. Overall, good optimism, lot of tailwinds. But are we able to manage as a country and as an industry the tailwinds to stabilize our ship or plane, whatever you want to call it, and get a very good landing in terms of 2030 landing, or we kind of go sideways and come out with a mess because of ABC factors. There are multiple factors rightly pointed out.
Right. Okay. Mr. Kumar, I'm going to give you more time for the question, because I know I started off with you and gave you 15 seconds. You can expand on that.
No, but it was very nice to, you know, tell your views. We often keep on talking about challenges. We are so engrossed. So it was good to say one-liner. I think Deepak has already summarized most of the challenges. I would say like this, that you build the project first based on your experience on the Excel sheet. That is how the journey starts. And Excel sheet is nothing but putting your experience into the assumptions, and for some unknown, you put some contingency. As long as you maintain that, is all good. Give one example. So land is less than 10% cost of the project. So if you, for you, it's not really very, expensive item in the Excel sheet in the whole affair. But one land can wash your equity 100%. You delay it, let's say for 6 months, for some reason, right of way, law and order issue, community issue, you cross the timeline, and then there are several VUCA things which Deepak said. Maybe ISTS charges fall on your head, which is enough to kill your project. The LDs, the tariff cuts. So to summarize all that,
Right.
The competition is there. But we are all matured. We know that, what is our threshold and where we are. We are very good with our experience and assumptions, but to my mind, the biggest bottleneck is land.
Right. Okay.
And if I have to go to the next one after land, which Deepak probably would elaborate later, is unfortunately we are in a sector which is concurrent list, which is not
Right.
center or
Right.
not
Right.
purely
So state issues. Yeah.
So
Okay.
they're not often
All right.
quite.
Okay. So
Thank
let
you.
me go through one more round of listing the biggest challenge. And from Mr. Thakur, you've listed several of them, but if you can tell me which one concerns you the most, and I'll quickly go through the others as well and ask them what they think is the biggest challenge.
I think I
The
think
biggest
from a
challenge for you.
from a developer's perspective, today the biggest challenge is connectivity.
Connectivity. Okay.
And connectivity and land. Till about 2 years back, it was land.
Yeah. And
Today
now it's
suddenly
connectivity.
it's turned to connectivity because
Okay.
there's a complete shortage of evacuation infrastructure, which is keeping pace with the way we had 63
Right.
or 65 gigawatt of RE tenders which came out last year.
Right.
And for just those tenders to be serviced, the infrastructure required will take 3 to 4 years.
Right.
And
And
these
your projects will come
projects
much
have to be
earlier
built in
than-
2 years.
Yes. Yes.
So clearly so there's a backlog building up, and if the government wants to keep pushing for 50 gigawatts a year, which is very good news for us,
Right.
we are more than happy.
Right.
But is the evacuation infrastructure in the RE pockets that all of us want to build in, is it keeping pace with it? I think that's what gives
Okay.
at
That's
least me
fine.
sleepless
Okay.
nights.
Dr. Shanmugasundaram, the biggest concern for you. So connectivity, big one for Mr. Thakur. For you, what's the biggest
Yeah, I
concern?
think connectivity is, I think.
Yeah. So,
both
but what's the other big concern for
see,
you?
land and connectivity are certainly concerns, right? I think that's, I'm not sure if there's anything more to say on that. But
Okay.
one thing what concerns us is the change in policies, right? There is a frequent change in policies related to land.
Are you saying change in policy in terms
From the
of
state government standpoint on a land, for example.
on land?
Right?
Okay. All right.
So the problem is that not only you have the land, you have to meet the security perfection also. Even if you get the land, to get security perfection, the NA approvals and so
Right.
on, ceiling limit approvals, it varies from state to state. These policies change frequently. right?
Let me ask you a follow-up question on that. The government claims that they've improved a lot in this area. Has there been improvement or has there been deterioration?
See, honestly, I think they announced single window policy, deemed conversion, right? But they're all only for namesake.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I should just tell you from my 25 years of infrastructure watching, there's no such thing as single window,
Right.
and nor can it be achieved. Okay?
So
Nor can it be
those,
achieved.
neither of those will meet. I think many of the bank people are there. They'll not accept to those for security perfections, right? So those on paper, yes, are there. So you
Right.
can do the project, but from a security perfection standpoint, I think I would say there's not been much improvement, and really
Okay.
new hurdles keep
Right.
coming up. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Samantha, what for you is the biggest challenge?
Challenge is the land and connectivity. So what we did actually, so we have appointed, several, employees in the different locations, particularly we are concentrating in Maharashtra, Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh, these 4-5 states. And then on the transmission side, we have heard somebody, to have a, better evacuations and this kind of a concept,
Right.
So we try to, solve this kind of a problem, because land is one of the major area where we
Right.
see the challenge,
Okay. Mr. Narula, I'll now ask you as somebody who observes the Indian solar sector as a very vested interest, of course. So what do you see as the biggest threat or challenge or concern?
I think policy has always been a concern. There were not a single time or single year where we have seen policy available for next 5 years or 3 years at least, which will enable the investors or developers to, risk-free their investments in the long run. So that has been always the case. In terms of the manufacturing also, we have seen that although PLI is there, and which is a big boost for the manufacturers, but the way the manufacturing expansion has taken place is still not in line with that to support to that 50 gigawatt of installations with only domestic supply chain. Then lastly, the policy in terms of ALMM or in terms of several other BIS issues. Recently, there has been an issue of cable, which was never heard of, which came from somewhere in the dark. So same way, in terms of ALMM also, I think MNRE has been sleeping for 3-4 years. They did not decide to visit any of the overseas manufacturers so far. One day, they get up from the sleep, they decide to visit Jinko factory in China and Vietnam, and we happily offered our factories for audits, and they again go back to sleep after that, without listing anybody in this thing. So I think it is not certain what government wants to do. I think there are certain pressure they are facing, which pushes also them to decide one way on one day and another way on another day. So we have to collectively look at that so that the industry as a whole should not suffer.
Okay. Mr. Khandelwal.
So, Mr. Brar, I would say most of the points have been highlighted. I
Right,
would say, since you have infra background, all of us have, I think respecting that we are building assets and infrastructure, that mindset, I think, which addresses most of these points, and the behavior of policymakers and regulators is like, this is 1 year or 2 year thing.
Right.
When we are talking about asset creation for the country, which is going to last minimum 25 years, maybe more, the mindset has to go towards infra thinking, long-term thinking, whether it is policy inconsistency, LMM coming at the last minute, land not getting resolved, evacuation not getting resolved, or DSM coming in. You give time to people to plan business and think as a asset creation mode or infra mode. This is not a software industry or FMCG industry. So the thought process has to be, it's a long-term asset which is getting created. Please treat it and respect it like asset creation, not like some short-term goals of X gigawatts or Y gigawatts.
Okay. Mr. Kumar.
Yeah, I think the panelists have already covered most of the point, but for me, land and connectivity, these two issues, I would still consider land to be more dangerous.
Right.
Why? Because connectivity, still I can foresee whether I will have or not, there is certainty, then I'll bid. Land, the problem is that sometimes even for connectivity, you go for 50% land, you get connectivity and then you bid. But remaining 50% land also can make your sleepless nights.
Right.
So land for me is the biggest animal. If I look at other geographies, just to give you a feel, because we are working in 70 countries, till today, for me, transmission was a plus point in India. A very robust grid, very professionally managed, everything being done by government.
Right.
I have to just go and connect to the national grid. So it was excellent compared to many geographies. In many geographies and developed geographies, the transmission lines infrastructure to be
big
built,
constraint.
it can take a decade.
Right.
So we are still better off.
Right.
I would say that if government just puts little effort on facilitating the government wasteland for solar,
Right.
that will make investors and utility life much simpler.
One quick follow-up for you. Connectivity, are we talking about interstate or intrastate? Which one is a concern?
See, most of the projects, most of the volume which is coming is intrastate.
Right.
Intrastate.
So I think
intrastate.
Yeah, so let me
ISTS.
just mention one thing. Intrastate is something we also would like to have a separate discussion on, because we are seeing how ability of a state to export varies tremendously, and in most cases is well below where it ought to be. Right. I mean, there is, for example, thinking that each state should have enough capacity where they can import or export up to 50% of their needs, and hardly any state is near that. Anyway, I also want to just mention we are going to have a Transtech, big summit, and in October, I would love for one session to be where we have developers interacting with the grid guys. you know. And we'll try to figure out how we can do that. Because when we hear from the grid people, they're saying, which I think is right. I mean, as you said, Indian transmission grid is pretty good. And I think all of a sudden the curtailment has been less than what would have been. I mean, if you remember the Tamil Nadu days in wind, right? I mean, that's what used
Even
to be,
Andhra.
right? In all of those things. Anyway, let me quickly move past this
Can
one.
I- can
Yeah,
I get
please,
in-
absolutely.
Since one
Yeah.
point, I think we spoke about it, is in today's space, developers trying to do the first charge
Right, right,
for an ISTS project, I think is a very cumbersome process.
right.
You have CEA,
Mhm.
you have CTU,
Mhm.
you have the grid controller of India,
Mhm.
and you have the regional load dispatch center. It's a nightmare, I believe. In fact, I believe there is an effort which is happening to streamline that process.
Right.
So as developers, we owe it to make sure that we adhere to all the standards, the grid codes, all the compliances.
Right.
But can we make life simpler and easier? So I think it's important
Right.
for us to also have a streamlined process so that
Right.
we can comply and projects can actually go online faster, which is
Right.
a good thing, I guess.
Right. My next round, I'm going to begin with Dr. Shanmugha the one thing you would want the government to do, and what we would like to be able to do is that we would like to be able to, from this conference, say these are the 10 things that emerged, 10 things that people asked for, so we can put it on a single page and say this is what. So I'm going to ask each one of you for one thing that you would like the government to do, small or big.
I think one other thing, sorry, the earlier question, the availability of wind sites with good potential, right? I think that's also becoming a challenge.
Right.
Right. Of course, that's not a government thing. See, one thing the government should do is, as I think Manish pointed out, 5 years of stability, policy stability. I do not have a single project where I do not have a change in law.
Right.
Filing
So
in
you want-
CERC.
you want
Okay?
not- you
not
want
a
a
single project. In some cases, there are 2 filings, right?
Right.
And each of those, also the way the interest rate is defined or cost of capital is defined, they are
Right.
negative from a
Right.
from
Okay.
a IRR standpoint, right?
So multi-year policy is one, and I should say one thing, that of all the people who are sitting here, in some ways, you are the closest to the government in terms of shareholding, right? Okay. I mean, the government's money is more invested in you than
Yes.
any one of the other players here.
That is true, but we
Uh,
don't have that much influence on policy per se. Right? I
Okay,
think,
so multi-year policy is one. Mr. Samantha, what's your one ask of the government, one policy ask?
Yes, and the policy side, particularly on the ALLM, I have a different kind of opinion.
Right.
If there is a permissions to import the module,
Right.
from China, and with the BCD in place, right? Okay. But this BCD on a year-on-year increasing states. So, for example, today it's 40%. From next year onwards is a 50, 60, 70, right? And
Or
100%
next
to up
month.
2030. So that, what do you do actually? We protect our PLI program, right? And also we generate revenue, which is also going to the, for the PLI incentives. Similar things like in the solar cells, because we don't have the capacity on the solar cell. And also on the wafer side, we have to see that it is also protected. There is no such, duty on that, right? Okay. So in the value chain, we have to protect so that,
in dealing with all of these things, what's the one thing you would want the government to do? Just one thing.
I mean,
if you were the minister and you said, do this one, what would that be?
Okay. So one thing like immediately ALLM, should be given
Should be
a-
just scrapped.
Scrapped. And
Okay,
then,
well, that will make Mr. Narula very happy, who's sitting next to you. Mr. Narula, one thing, same thing I'm assuming as Mr. Samantha, right?
Yeah, so if you have to pick up one point from each one of us, so I think
Yes.
several points have already been picked up, so I'll
Yes.
add another one now.
Yes, please add one, yes.
Yeah, so for our sake, I think for the sake of the country and nation to build, this kind of a renewable energy capacity, and our honorable Prime Minister has already committed a certain net zero targets, so we have to all work towards that. Forget about the competitiveness, between the companies, between the developers, between manufacturers, across the nations also. We should all come towards collaboration. So whatever is possible from wherever sources, whether cells or wafers or modules or technology or skill sets or machineries or whatever is possible,
Right.
let us look at that, build in the same thing in our country without any of the hassles of any of the geopolitical or any other things, because I believe it is not an issue of just one sector. For solar we talk too much about geopolitical, but when it comes to pharmaceutical, automobile, or semiconductor or otherwise, we don't talk about that much, because we are still having sort of business going across the nations. So we should not single out one sector which needs these kind of technologies very, very deeply.
Understood.
So
Understood.
that's what is point.
Okay, great. Mr. Khandelwal. One thing you would want the government
I
to
would
do.
say a multi-year policy thing.
Okay.
Minimum governance, what is that? Minimum government, more governance. So you come out with policies, we'll figure out. We'll figure out how to do it.
Yes.
But please don't come out with every quarterly interventions,
Right.
because that creates problems. Whether it land or evacuation, you just give us 7 years visibility the way you are talking about 25 years country plan,
Right, right.
2047.
Right.
Give us 7-year plan, forget about 25, but then don't tinker too much. I agree, or we all agree, there are multiple objectives you need to achieve,
Right.
whether domestic production, whether transmission utilization, whether ALM, everything.
Right.
We all agree and appreciate that.
Okay.
But
So,
please give
multi-
multi-year visibility of the policy.
Okay. Mr. Kumar.
I will say land. So give me land for 5 gigawatt, for example, today. And
Give me what, sorry?
Land.
Land. Okay, so land.
Because,
okay.
and I'll tell you just why I'm
Right.
saying that.
Understand. No,
Because
I think it's very clear. Because
government keeps on telling, I have got 2% land on which you can build 500 gigawatt.
Right.
Please give me 0.001% of that.
Okay.
It's your land.
Right. Right.
Money and all the risk is mine. I'm
Right.
a utility, I'm there for 25 years.
Okay.
But just give me a piece of
Okay.
land.
So you want land. Okay. All right. Mr. Thakur.
Okay, I think if we just reverse all the challenges and issues which I said,
Just one ask
Um,
from the government.
I think making sure that the central policies get implemented in letter and spirit in toto by the states.
Okay. Well,
I think
listen,
that-
if
that
it was
is-
I should just mention, if it was a hard enough challenge in the last 5 years, you can imagine what it might be in the next 5
So
years.
if exactly, so I think,
Yes.
but at least it
Yes,
can happen in the states which have the same governments at the center and the state.
And are we sure? That's what you will think few weeks from now? No, that was just a question. Okay.
I would hope so, but still.
Okay, that's just a question. Okay, so let's go to the next question, which is I'm going to begin this time with Mr. Samanta, and the question really is going to be from your point of view as you look at the future. What's your focus going to be? Is it utility, whatever? I mean, you can define it utility
Yeah,
versus CNI, or
yeah.
you can define it one particular state versus the other, or you can define it in terms of one kind of technology versus the other, or you can define it in terms of bidding for RTC versus any kind of projects. What's the big focus
Yeah,
area
the
for you?
future that we are going with the FDRE only, right? Okay, so that's the future what we believe. And then we have seen a very good tariff, like 4 rupees 38 paise, and then as far as the storage is concerned, I mean, the price is falling,
Right.
right? Solar, we are comfortable. The wind also, we are, I know it's a little bit on the higher on the capex, but we have a different algorithm and the model.
What are you most excited about?
Excuse me?
What are you most excited about?
Excited about the storage, the
The
price
storage,
is,
right.
is going
Okay.
down. I mean, I'm talking about the BESS systems right
Right.
now, right?
Okay.
So I'd say the presentations.
Great, great. I think I've got the answer.
Yeah.
Mr. Narula, this time I'm going to ask you to wait because I have a different question for you. I'll hear from the developers first and then come back to you. Yeah, Mr. Khandelwal. Yeah. So focus area or something you're excited about, whatever you prefer, one segment or the other, one state or the other, one technology or the other, one project, one type of project versus the other. Whatever you prefer.
Sure. That is very clear for us because we are focused, purpose-driven company. We are only focused on dispatchability. So
Right.
multi-tech projects, FDRE is the way to go.
Right.
That's
Okay.
the
That's
thing.
good, yeah.
And when you say why, why it
Please.
excites,
Mhm.
the reason is it actually allows companies to differentiate by doing a lot of engineering work, a lot of development work, and not just cheapest electrons by cheapest procurement and cheapest financing. This is infra, where
Right.
you can do your creativity and innovation at play, and which allows shareholders to play the risk-reward game.
Right.
So you have potential upsides in this configuration, which you don't have in plain solar or plain wind.
Right.
So that's the
Okay.
segment.
Yeah. Mr. Kumar?
You know, we are utility, so we have a long-term interest, and in long term, whereas we see our assets dominated by solar, but we will like to go more into FDRE with more of battery and hybrid and other technologies. Some of our sister groups will try to work more into the decarbonization and energy markets. We are looking forward for virtual PPAs, for which NG is one of the global leaders, and also the ancillary markets, you know, in India if it picks up.
Okay. Mr. Thakur.
So I think obviously, I think we want to follow the market. If you saw complex bids, 2020 was 16% of the total bids in a year, tenders in a year. Last year it has grown to 43%.
Right.
So clearly, I think complex bids is the way to go, and that's why I said our first wind solar project that we have done
Right.
is the starting for us to enter that space of hybrids, RTC, FDRE, and open access. So we see that
Right.
space is what we would like to focus. And another space that I think is evolving is standalone storage. I think we want to also have a play in that space. So that's what our focus will be, in addition to plain vanilla solar.
Okay. Dr. Shanmuga Sundaram.
Yeah, I think one of the things which probably India can do better is the whole digital piece of it. Today, what's happening is the solar and wind are commodities. To some degree, the power from solar is a commodity, the power from wind is a commodity, because those are well-established processes to build. Of course, there are challenges in infrastructure, right? But where the opportunity is in the whole digital space of how do I combine this solar with this wind, with this battery, right? I think that combination and the whole digital optimization piece, it's not there today. In fact, I have globally searched for solutions for RTC. Right? It's just not there in the marketplace today, right? I think so. There's definitely a huge opportunity there. And one of the interesting things that also brings up when you're looking at combination is it's not the LCOE of individual elements. It's not the LCOE of solar. It's not the LCOE of wind that determines the tariff. It's how they combine, how they complement each other. The wind and the solar needs to complement each other, and sometimes multiple locations of wind, multiple locations of solar together along with battery, right? I think that can make a huge difference in your returns, right? So the entire digital optimization piece pre-bid and then the execution of it post-bid, right? I think that's an area where I think there is a huge opportunity and potential, and I think there needs to be a lot of focus on.
Right.
And that also fits in with the forecasting and DSM. Right. Okay. The moment you get your forecasting right, then you are able to better use your resources to produce the round the clock, right? So I think so this whole forecasting, how do you forecast better so that you optimize your DSM, whether it's a solar or wind, and also the whole optimization of how you integrate them and what those solutions look in an integrated format, not on a standalone LCOE basis. I think these are various areas where there is a huge potential to differentiate and optimize.
Thank you. Mr. Narula, so when you look at the Indian market, where do you see the big opportunity going forward, either in terms of, utility, rooftop, particular states, particular technology, particular kinds of projects?
I think it's everywhere. Utility scale has been one of the leading, contributors
Right.
towards.
But if you had to say,
RE.
okay, maybe which one will become bigger than it has been before?
We are now looking at all possible tender support in terms of whether it is FDRE or BESS or any kind of plain vanilla solar or even hybrid,
Right.
because there is a share of solar in every such project.
Right.
And across the states, across the type of schemes, whether it is rooftop, even now PM Surya Ghar, there is a demand for that. We are looking at the options to serve that market as well by building up locally made cells and modules in our own brand name. So there are many things which we are looking at it, and I think there is a big demand and big opportunity still lies against all odds. Yeah.
Okay. My next question, I'm actually going to begin with you. In the morning, we had a presentation which some of you were not there, perhaps many of you were not there and there was outlook, and the range was given, I think, almost 15 to 20 to 35 to 40 megawatt per year over the next 7 years. What is your thought in terms of what the capacity addition is going to be? You can give us any projection you have. You can do it for next 1 year, next 3 years, next 7 years, whichever one you feel comfortable with.
I think we should look from or learn from the best markets available in the world, whether it is US market, Chinese market, or other markets. For instance,
So what the number? I'm looking for
so
a number.
number
and
is
years.
number is that I think in my sense, looking at the way India has been adding the capacities between 10 to 15 gigawatts, I think if we touch 20 gigawatt consistently for next 2 to 3 years, and then 25 to 30 onwards from 3 to
Okay,
5 or
that's what
7
it-
years,
do you think
that
that'll
will be the
good?
best thing.
Mr. Khandelwal. I just need the numbers.
Starting with 25, achieving 50 in 50 in 5 years.
Okay.
So it's going to be trajectory.
Okay, Mr. Kumar.
If government can cover some of the challenges, as we said, I've got no doubts that they can meet the trajectory, 50 gigawatt even a year.
A year, few years from now.
Yeah.
Mr. Thakur?
Yeah, I think I'll apply a factor of 75% to the government's target.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I would
Yeah.
say, given the capacity available, evacuation capacity, 20 to 25 is probably the maximum for the next 3 years.
Okay. All right. Mr. Samantha?
Yeah, this year maybe around 18 plus, and the next year onwards like 20 gigawatt plus, so
Okay. All right.
that's it.
We are now going to have a little bit of interaction, and I'm just going to pick up a couple of people to begin with, and they will have the opportunity to either comment or ask a question, one or the other, and I'm going to try to see, because they have a vested interest as well. So let me go to Mr. Ghosh first, Sujay Ghosh, who's head of First Solar in India. Mr. Ghosh, either a comment or a question, whatever you'd like. And the question should only be addressed to one, otherwise we won't have time for, yeah.
No comments to. These are
No
all my
comments?
friends.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we should be, the only comment I would say is we should be on the same side of the table
Yes.
and not on the other side of the table.
Okay. You and Mr. Narula both.
No. Me and everybody.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Narula is on my side of the table only.
Yes.
It's only that we fight different battles
Yes.
at different points in time. But
All
I'm
right.
talking about Deepak and Arul and all the
Yes.
other guys. We seem to sometimes have a difference of opinion.
Okay. Mr. Shah, as you are probably expected, I was coming to you next.
Hi, thanks. I think we've heard all of them, and it's kind of the ethos is probably common. Of course, they have their own challenges. As manufacturers, we have ours. And exactly what Sujoy said, how can we work together? Because finally, what does win-win for both of us look like? If we can script that and go together in this, only then we'll be jointly helping India build the infra that we are talking about.
All right. Okay. Okay. Fine. Let me come back to the gentleman here.
I can answer
Yes,
one
absolutely.
point.
Please.
Yeah, I wanted to see on manufacturing. I also think we should not say Indian manufacturing is not good quality. I think that's passé now. I don't think it's fair to say that also. Yes, do we have the capacity to meet all the requirements is something we can discuss, but I think it's probably not a fair statement to make that our manufacturing is. Actually, there are advantages of having a manufacturer in India from a 25-year bankability and standpoint, because at least you have someone you can go and claim without crossing boundaries to do that, right? So I think, having said that, I also think the government should allow certain percentage, maybe for CNI customers or something, to allow imports for those instead of constraining by ALMM. So there needs to be a balance on both, but certainly we should not use the quality argument to undermine Indian manufacturing. I think it's not fair, and I think we should avoid that.
Thanks. Yeah, please, absolutely.
Monoperk cells and modules manufactured in India. With all due respect, I think if you look at our breakage percentages, our efficiency versus what the globe has, the facts are on the table. This is something that we did over 4 years, 5 years. We have achieved. We are exporting. Obviously, we are good. We are talking about TOPCon. I want to build projects with TOPCon. Why should I build projects with Monoperk, which is now obsolete? Will I get Monoperk modules today for Q3 delivery, which are as good as any of the TOPCon modules that I can get anywhere in the world? If the answer is yes, most happiest. I want to build some projects, experiment with HJT. We already have 20% of modules in the world moving towards HJT. Can I get HJT modules in this country when I build 25-year assets? So it is like the COVID vaccine. We all saw vaccines which take 6 years to build got built in 6 months, and we know what the question marks were. Today there is a race, and I'm sure manufacturers are putting all energies, getting the best technology, getting the best people possible, and we are trying to expedite the process of making sure that we have TOPCon modules, because we are placing orders for TOPCon modules. But
Okay.
so
Understood.
clearly, the question is not about the ability. The fact on the table is, am I going to get the best-in-class modules, TOPCon modules, and HJT modules in the next 1 year to build 25-year assets?
Okay, yeah, please. Yeah,
No,
I'll-
I'll answer that one, right? So as far as the solar cell is concerned, yes, in India, is not coming the mass manufacturing, which the PLI program is. But we are very safe in a sense, like the solar cells which are coming from China. If you look at the quality, I can give a lecture on the quality as far as the light-induced, LID degradations, LETID and PID. These are the three major concerns on the solar cells. As far as the module is concerned, which is low technology, is the thermal cycling, damp heat, humidity freeze. There are several quality tests, which is called the reliability test, right? And I fortunately visited at least 10 to 15 Indian manufacturers and also maybe 30, global Chinese manufacturers. So far, either from the monopark, it's very safe. Even in the TOPCon, it's not that is challenge because the solar cells which are bringing, from China. So what we are doing, we are making the module, and there are several, mostly are bifacial in nature, and then several, polymer, what we do, the laminations and this thing, and there are several kind of tests, right? So I'm sure that even with a year time, I know there are several manufacturers that in switching over the line from the monopark to TOPCon, and they will deliver. And we have a quality test, how to do it and how to ensure that this will last not only for 25 years, 30 years
Thank
as
you.
well. I think even you can.
Thanks. Yeah, Mr. Saha,
Can
you
I
want to do?
make a quick comment what Deepak asked? You asked that whether the right quality product from Indian manufacturers is going to be available. The answer is yes, in the next 1 year, 1.5 years, but not in the volumes that probably the country needs. That's the real honest answer. But the problem doesn't lie there only. The problem lies in the way that the government has approached this industry. Remember what China did 20 years back. They started building the solar value chain from top. We did it the other way. And therefore, this somewhere, when we find that there is the two sides are meeting up, there will be mismatches, which will take probably a couple of years to settle down. That's the real honest answer. But after 2 years, if you do not allow this time now, you will never be able to catch up to where we ought to be by this time. We should have been by this time.
Thank you. Mr. Khandelwal, you wanted to say something?
I want to add 2-3 points to both Deepak's and Mr. Saha's point is, and even Mr. Gautam, is the planning. So PLI was a very good intervention, but look at the outcome. Have we achieved what we wanted to achieve? Answer is unfortunately no, maybe partially. So the
For
design.
some people, yes.
Sorry?
For
Yeah,
some people,
yes. But for the country or industry as a whole, answer is no. So, and this concern about quality and bankability, I think the best judge are always third parties. If Indian manufacturers can get the same insurance premium and same coverage from insurance companies and global lenders, then I think we are sorted. They are doing the efforts, but there is always a catch-up game happening.
Right,
So that catch-up game can be broken only by change in the PLI design, where we go to the value chain from the starting, not the last thing. And that goes back to the policy vision. Are we trying to create jobs? Or are we trying to create some companies' valuations?
Right.
Or are we trying to actually create center of excellence or center of manufacturing in the India?
And what do you think we should do between the
Sorry?
three of them? What do you think we should do between the three of them?
Center of excellence. So you need to invest for 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
You can't be having short-term targets, right?
Correct.
As Mr. Saha said,
Okay.
China envisioned for 10 to 15 years,
Right.
and they are there.
Okay.
Now we are always on the catch-up game, and that is never ending. Today he's asking for TOPCon, he will get it next year.
Right.
Then life will move on to HJT.
Right.
They will get next to next year HJT, life will move on to something else.
Right.
So we'll always be in catch-up game.
Right.
So
I
I
got
think,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
I think, one more thing
Yeah,
is,
please.
today we are importing cells. As of April, and I think there'll be more educated people, as of April, I think the nameplate capacity of cells in this country is 8 gigawatts. Module capacity nameplate is 68 gigawatts. ALMM approved capacity is 41 gigawatts. Okay? So cells are coming from somewhere, right?
Right.
When we catch up on cells, we will depend on wafers from somewhere else. Okay? When we catch up on wafers, we'll depend on ingots from somewhere else. When we catch up on ingots, I don't know, polysilicon from somewhere else.
Okay. All right.
So
Understood.
is someone looking at the value chain being built? So, and please understand, the someone else that you're stopping from coming in the country can cut the umbilical cord.
Right.
Wafers exports can be stopped. Polysilicon exports can be stopped by
Right.
that one entity.
Okay.
So what happens to us? So I think that's
Got it.
also a question
Thanks.
which
No, I think that's fair.
in the geopolitical situation needs to be answered
Right.
while we try to answer for
Okay.
creating a self-sustaining supply chain in this country.
Thanks. Okay. So we are coming to the last round, and it's going to work a little differently. Okay, which is that for each panelist we'll have one question. That one question can either come from you or from me. Okay. So the idea is first, of course, the preference goes to you, but that also means every panelist gets just one question. Okay. So yes, sir. Please stand up, and you can tell us what your question is and who you're addressing it to, and then once we have done that, that person is no longer eligible for questions. Go ahead.
Hello, I am Rishabh. I am from CEW. And anyone can answer this question. I have been asking this question to ministry people who are leading there. Manish, you talked about, I added your capacity
Sir,
additions.
just 30 seconds questions, please. Yeah.
Your capacity additions, it is 50% of NDC targets. Deepak, your is 75%, and government says I will capture 90% or more ambitious than that. So the error is more than 30 to 50%, and there is apparently some bigger gaps in their aspirations and the reality. So my simple question is, what to do now? There is potential. Someone in the morning session
Okay,
just
I
told
think we've
that
got-
there is 1500 gigawatt of capacity installation in Run of Kutch. So, so I want to just ask, how will you cope to it? The gap between the government and the developers.
I'm not sure there is a simple answer, but let me just see is anyone willing to raise their hands and answer this question? Yes, Mr. Kumar. Mr. Kumar gets this answer, yes.
See,
He'll
I
also
think
get a special prize
I
for
think
this.
I answered that I'm very optimistic, provided the challenges that the industry is facing today, somebody works on government. Because my side, I'm willing to work, there is no problem. Now, you need to analyze all the projects that have been bidded. You'll get the answer in that of the, let's say not 50, of the 25, 30 gigawatts of the project that has been bidded, secured, awarded, not awarded is a second question. You need to take project by project analysis. You'll get your answer. I think a vast majority of the projects, they are auctioned, but PPA never signed. Why? Because there is a term, intermediary, and there is a term who is off-taker or final beneficiary. Is not willing to sign. Is looking at, the tenders are happening in a gap of 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, and he's finding a better number. He backs out. Now government has come with a plan of the pool. We don't know when it comes into play. Secondly, then the guy goes further. He signs the PPA, and then he's stuck in the connectivity or land.
Thank you.
Then he goes further. He's stuck somewhere.
I think you've answered the question more or less. Yes, pretty much. Okay, so no more questions for
Can
Mr.
I
Kumar.
ask one question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So my question to the developers sitting
We'll
here.
pick one. I'll pick one. Mhm.
Anyone can answer that, and it will be a little controversial question. But if you think that you have a technology, a PERC or a TOPCon, which is giving you your project IRRs as you envision, with the price, with the reliability and everything, why would you need to invest in new technologies every year? Like when you have a PERC, you want to go for a TOPCon? Just because it is
Okay,
available
I
in the
think, yeah,
market?
I think, yeah. So
Why
I
do
think-
you have to invest in a HGT?
Right.
If that is available in the market? If your bid prices are being met and you are making your IRR,
Okay,
why
yeah,
do
I
you
think
have to
we've
change
got the
technology
question, yeah.
very
So-
frequently?
Okay, so we'll need a 60-second answer from Mr. Thakur. 60-second answer.
I think first of all, if you look at the reality, every new technology has certain advantages. So what Monoperk can offer to me, Topcon obviously gives me advantage. What Topcon offers to me, HJT gives me something an advantage. The idea is not to make the same IRR. The objective is to continue making, not only delivering the IRR, but getting a better return.
Better projects, yeah. Okay, that's
So,
good.
so
We'll move
obviously,
to the
if
next.
I have the option, I will like to go for the option and do it.
Okay.
I have a different answer.
Yeah,
you
Mr.
know.
Samantha, you can answer this.
Yeah, yeah. We most of the time talk about the LCOE, right?
Mhm.
The denominator here is the generations. Now, if you look at your park versus the Topcon, where is the difference, you know? If you look at the temperature coefficient, you know, which are at least 10 to 15% better.
Right.
If you look at the bifacility factor, there is also another 15% more.
Right.
If you look about the, you know, albedo, which is called the scattered light and the low temperature response and a lot of
Right.
factors, you know. So obviously going to the new technologies, obviously that gives the better generations and the better IRR. You know,
Right.
even I'm talking about the two configuration. One is that fixed tilt and the single axis tracker. So we go for the single axis tracker depending on the locations of that one, and which makes a, you know, viable option for that one. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now the next question from the audience, and the people you have to address it to, please, yeah, please give mic, yes. And so the question will be answered by either Mr. Khandelwal or Mr. Dr. Shanmuga Sundaram or Mr. Narula. Go ahead, sir.
My
Ma'am,
question
sorry.
is quite different.
Sorry?
This is Sonika from SolarPack. My question is quite different. It's not directly.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, how AI can help in the solar industry or renewable industry?
How?
AI.
How AI can help in the industry. Okay, so let's just see.
I
Sorry.
answer that? Can I just answer that
Let
in
me
a
first
minute?
give the options to. Let me give the options to people who have not got it. We are going to be very egalitarian, very socialist here. Yeah, Dr. Shanmu. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think I talked about digital already, right? And I talked about optimizations for defining the capacity when you're doing round-the-clock optimizations for forecasting, right? In fact, we've been struggling with forecasting, in fact, with one of the best names in the world, right, with the AI and ML algorithms. See, one of the challenges, at least personally, I feel is the pure AI ML database assessment of forecasting is a bit of a challenge because you need some physics-based models because there's a lot of noise and a small amount of noise can throw your model away very fast, right? So there is some role in that whole space, but it has to be done considering the level of noise in the data you're getting as well as the
We need a whole separate
attributes,
conference
yeah.
session for that. But next question, please. Yes. Could you
Alok, I
could you
just wanted
please?
to add, because within Mahindra, there's an entity called Mahindra Teco, which actually does,
Right.
it is the largest renewable energy asset management company in the country, 7th largest in the world.
Right.
So they have built tactics platforms, which currently can do preventive and they can do predictive. It can't do prescriptive. And if you really want to make a game change in solar asset management, the prescriptive part has to come in place where AI and ML actually plays a role. So there is something that we're doing in that space.
Okay,
So
so
there is work happening globally and also in India.
Thank you. So the question has to be for either Mr. Narula or Mr. Khandelwal. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. So I'm Neha from Weather Risk. So I have a question around transferring risk, financial losses because of extreme weather events. There are multiple events, severe instances where hurricanes or extreme rainfall has led to reduced solar power generation. So is there any interest from the energy sector in adopting insurance solutions to transfer this financial
Okay, Mr.
loss?
Khandelwal. And
Yeah,
and
there
which
is-
company are you from?
Weather risk management services.
So yes, answer is yes. There is always an interest from management, investors, and shareholder side to reduce the risk. The question is, what is the price to reduce the risk? So insurances are always good, provided they make commercial sense. But a lot of work is happening on weather sciences and how can they add to the better reliability or predictability of generation from renewable resources.
Right. And I was just speaking to somebody yesterday from RMI Insurance. Apparently, they do a lot of work on just this particular
lot of work
part.
is happening.
Based in India, but they do work for the American clients. Last question, I think I'll ask that from Mr. Narula because I want to ask that question. Mr. Narula, when are you setting up a plant in India?
Tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the answer is sometime in future. Yes. Have you looked at it
Actually,
before? Right?
We have looked into this option of building up a factory. We looked at several states in terms of their, invitations in terms of taxations, land, and other infrastructure ancillaries. We have done our bit.
Right.
But at this stage, we are waiting for certain favorable policies to roll out in terms of manufacturing from the neighboring countries here. Right?
Okay. We're going to close this session now. It's been a fantastic session, a lot of insight. And for that, we owe gratitude to the excellent panelists we had, Mr. Khandelwal, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Thakur, Dr. Shanmuga Sundaram, longest name, Mr. Samantha, and Mr. Narula. A big hand for them. And we are